Well, aloha everyone. Welcome to Inspire Collective Online Peace. My name is Russ Kimura. Today we have Bronson with Bacon Break, and we're gonna just ask him some questions as an entrepreneur in the marketplace. Thanks for joining us, Bronson.
Thanks for having me, Russell.
So tell us a little bit about your business and how you came to this point of where you're at in your journey with your business, your baking business.
So Bacon Break first started out off of Instagram.
Okay.
Purely out of passion. My first job was working at AO Bowl.
Okay.
And I moved around from like front of house to host to server help, and found the passion and the love for baking there. And I just dove into it. So it's been about like nine years now.
Wow. Okay.
Baking. My old coworkers pushed me to start baking. So going from Instagram, doing orders, baking out of my house, delivering to people, that's kind of where it all started. And then eventually going into having the opportunity to open up a spot in McCully.
Okay.
It was kind of like, I'm a little scared.
Sure. Absolutely.
I don't know what's going to happen, because going from Instagram to, I guess it's a live, like in person, like you having a storefront.
Sure. Brick and mortar. Yeah.
Brick and mortar dynamic was a lot different. So I'm 7 months in.
Okay.
And I don't know, I think it's going amazing.
Okay.
Something that I wouldn't even have seen in myself. That maybe something God has brought out.
Sure.
Where every moment I'm trusting in the Lord. Every decision I'm like, okay, God, is this right?
Sure.
Is this what I have to do?
Yeah.
So I would say to be honest, it's challenging, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what are some of what are some lessons you've learned in this journey of being out on your own, taking the leap from Instagram to a brick and mortar shop and whatnot? What are some lessons that God's shown you, or different things that you've experienced that you're like, man, I've learned so much because of this?
I guess one thing that I've learned going from Instagram into a brick and mortar, I actually had an opportunity to go into a partnership. And this is kind of like one thing that I've learned as a business owner. When I'm going into a partnership, especially with friends, it can't just be like word of mouth or like on a handshake.
I see.
Where in the end, there was no contract, and things went the way that they did, and we had to dissolve the business. And unfortunately, that it ruined the friendship for like 13 years.
Wow.
So for me, looking at that, I guess God in that moment was like, you gotta really write out contract. You have to put things like in writing, how you did with the 10 Commandments. It was a contract to us. So having that relationship, and any type of business partnerships, there should be like some type of written agreement. Where me, when I first started Bacon Break, in order to do this other business with my friends, it was kind of like, oh snap, I get to, I was super excited.
Yeah.
Man, I get to do this like whole thing, like own something, like have my own brick and mortar.
Sure.
Where, my emotions and my emotions and my mindset was like, oh yeah, this is no brainer.
Yeah.
This is like, say less. Where's the paper? Like, sure, let's go. Let's get the lease. So, with that experience, like, I guess trust, or like being in business with not only people that you can trust, but really solidify and write down, and have things in writing. That's just for me personally.
Yeah, that's a big lesson. So many times we maybe in faith, or maybe good faith, we think, oh, they're our friends, Christians or whatever, but that doesn't mean that we don't take steps to make sure that things are in place just to cover ourselves. I think there's some wisdom within that as well.
Yeah,
for sure. How have you seen your faith play out now in this new season I guess 6-7 months in, like how has God, shown up in your business, and how do you see that playing out in your day to day, in terms of just your business and your faith?
I feel like right now, and even from like when I first began to 7-8 months in, where when I first started, I got this like cool little nugget from my dad. My dad was like, count the cost, and you hear that a lot.
Sure.
And even in the Bible, it says, count the cost. And for me going into opening up Bake and Break as a brick and mortar, I had to weigh out everything. I had to count like, okay, what are the expenses? What is going to be the profit margin? How much do I have to sell in order to make rent?
Sure.
So going from Instagram, which isn't really like a stable chart, but and trusting the fact that, okay, if I produce this, if I market it right, if everything is okay, if the sales are right, if the prices of the products are good, then I think we can at least make rent.
Sure.
So going from that first month of like, all right, we got to sell, $100 in cupcakes a day in order for me to like make rent at ends meet for this month, then I think I'll be okay. And, so far the first month, all right, we made rent. We covered expenses.
Sure.
We didn't really profit, but we're over there. At least we made rent.
Sure.
Then the next month was like, okay, we did a little better. And then after that, it's like holidays came. Where bakeries, it's like a big jump in sales.
Sure.
So I feel like every month God has kind of like provided, and I was just my position was just to go in there, bake, and trust that God will bring the people.
Yeah.
And every month, God has been bringing the people and bringing more people.
Yeah.
And the word is just spreading like wildfire. And now it's like after February, March, and April are like very slow months for the shopping center that I'm at.
Okay.
Where it was a little challenging, but at least we still made rent.
Yeah.
And covered all the expenses. But it's that same thing that I always hear is like, okay, just go into the bake shop, continue to bake and trust.
Sure.
And I'll bring the people. So I mean, right now it's like, okay, just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Got to keep baking, creating new stuff.
Yeah.
And just enjoying the moments of I get to do this.
Sure.
I get to bake.
Yeah.
For myself.
Yeah.
And for the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
So.
What are some new creations on the horizon? What are some things that you're doing creatively in the baking space?
So right now, I think for Bake and Break, I'm trying to bring out quenelles.
Okay.
It's like this nice little pastry, almost shaped like a flower when you're looking at it at the top.
Okay.
But it's like very crunchy on the outside and super moist on the inside. So it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what flavors you rolling out with that?
Right now, vanilla. I want to do a matcha, probably a blueberry, strawberry for sure. But I want to first launch the vanilla first, so that I don't know if people like it. People like it.
Is there anything on the island like that?
There are people that are doing it.
Okay.
But I love quenelles. Okay. So it's like it's something that hits home for me.
I see.
Where I don't know, maybe it might be something good.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And then how do people find you?
People can find me on Instagram, Bake and Break HI, or Google or Yelp. So that's where people.
So if they came to Hawaii and they wanted to try the best bakery on island, they could go to Makali Shopping Center. Where is it?
Yeah, Makali Shopping Center on the second floor in Test Kitchen.
And what would you tell someone who came in like, hey, you gotta try this, or is it day to day it's different? What's on the floor, what you guys are selling, or are there kind of some mainstays that they have to try if they come in?
I would say everything.
Everything.
Find everything. To be honest, to be honest, because I put a lot of effort and I put a lot of thought process into all the products that we produce. Where you're gonna get a different experience.
Sure.
A cupcake is gonna be different from a brioche.
Sure.
Brioche is gonna be different from an eclair or a cream puff.
Yeah.
So it really depends on like your personal preference.
Yeah.
Where you won't be disappointed with whatever you get.
I see. And then you do cakes as well, or not so much?
Yeah, so I specialize in wedding cakes. I
Got it.
specialize in birthday cakes. So the cupcakes is kind of like a miniature taste test
Sure.
of those cakes.
Yeah. Very cool. So for the future, what are your dreams? What do you see happening with Bake and Break, or what is your hope? I know you know the first kind of 3-6 months you're just, can I pay rent? You know, and then as you start to take a breather and realize God's got you, where do you see Bake and Break going, or what's your hope for it, or what's the idea?
So I see Bake and Break having its own brick and mortar shop.
Okay.
Right now I'm in Test Kitchen, which is kind of like a shared community.
Yeah.
Similar to like Ohana Hale.
Okay.
But it's a lot smaller. So I think for me, my next step is to have my own building.
Okay.
Or like being like a nice little
Sure.
baking space.
Got it.
Where, you know, it's separated from all the other vendors, or like it's just its own little shop.
Yeah.
Where I can bring out the environment, I can bring out the ambiance, I can bring out what Bake and Break essence is, which is, you know, baking and b-boying, breaking, which is hip hop. So that's like another passion of mine, where I want that aesthetic to, you know, have that feel when people walk in. It's like, oh, I can relax here. I can listen to, you know, some good tunes. I can enjoy pastries, maybe even have a cup of coffee or a tea or something.
Yeah. So in your new space, you would create it slightly differently if you could.
For sure.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that element. It's bake and break. And so obviously the bake part is, we know that. But the break side of it, how do you see that, like, other than ambiance, how do you see that playing out? Or what's your vision for that? Or like, are there any other creative things that you're thinking through? Like, man, I love baking, but I also like breakdancing and b-boy. Like, how do those two worlds kind of come together? You know, I love it's in your logo and your brand.
Right. It's kind of funny. So Clint, my brother, this was years ago. Like when I first started baking, we were having a meeting at one of our studios. And he came in and he was like, oh, what if you open up a bakery called Bake and Break or Break and Bake?
Yeah.
I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Years later, boom,
wow.
it comes up. Yeah. So, you know, my passion behind breaking has always been like, it wasn't like it was my personal desire. You know, it's actually something that is a huge part of my testimony, where I feel like God is getting all the glory for it now. You know, it was like back in the day, we'll dance, you know, we'll go out, do hood stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, now, you know, being fully committed to the Lord and seeing that this community, the breaking scene, there's a lot of like things that go on in it where I could be I could guide people to the light.
Wow.
You know, where giving opportunities for kids, or even giving back to the scene of like, hey, you know what, I can donate a couple, you know, I can donate a few things to this event, or I can help be a sponsor to this event. So at Bake and Break, I try to do that. I try to give back to the community. It doesn't have to be breaking, but that is where my heart is, where the dance scene has done a lot for me, like in the physical essence, in the music essence, in how I think, how I process things, how I create, where I want to give back. You know, I want to see the kids kind of grow up in a better light of the community, where things for them can be easier to get, versus in our generation, or even the generation before in the scene, where things are so hard to like, oh, you gotta raise up this much amount of money to fly out, or like, is it even possible to fly out? Where now breaking is in the Olympics, where there's so many competitions
Wow.
coming up.
Yeah.
Where eventually I want to like sponsor people. I want to
Yeah.
sponsor kids.
Sure.
To do that.
Yeah.
It is one of my goals too, but I don't know. Baking is the priority right now.
That's awesome. Well, I love that you've taken two passions that are seemingly not even related at all, other than the first letter, and combine them in the sense where you're living out your passion, and then you have an even bigger vision for the future. Like as God continues to blow up and blow on upon your baking business, you're going to be able to do those things like sponsorship and bring purpose and life into a community that you know so well. So I'm just excited to see what God's going to do here in the next season through your business and through your passions, and what value and light you're going to bring to the community. That's kind of the coolest thing about entrepreneurship, is we take our passions into it and God kind of blows on it and it goes from there, right?
Yeah.
So really excited. Anything else you want to share with our online community about Bake and Break, or just maybe chasing your dreams, or, you know, realizing you can go after your passions and actually make something out of it, and it's not just a pipe dream?
Yeah, there's honestly so much to say. But I guess one thing that I really want to share is that I get to do this.
Yeah.
It's not every day where, you know, you're called into owning your own business.
True.
Where I feel like at first I didn't even want to do this. Where all my coworkers are like, nah, you gotta do this as a side hustle. You gotta like start selling it to us.
Sure.
And for me, because I loved it, it never dawned on me like I want to make money from it. But it was something that I guess I was pushed into, where, you know, circumstances happen, the tide rose, and it was like, okay, you know what, it's time to do this, and time to trust, not only in yourself, but trust God. In the moment where it opened up the opportunity for me to give back.
Cool.
Financially to the church.
Sure.
You know, to give back financially to other charities, where it's not even about myself anymore.
Sure.
Where it's about community, and it's about how I can help the community that I'm around.
Yeah.
Whether if it's financially, whether if it's like you need someone to talk to,
Sure.
or whether if it's like, oh, you want a cupcake, you want a pastry for the shop.
Sure.
It's something that I get to do.
Yeah.
And what I find having joy in,
that's awesome,
is just being around people, helping people, and seeing the community that I'm in, like having this type of joy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
well, it definitely comes out, and I see the passion, and I love that reframing. You know, so much of life sometimes for people is like, oh, I have to do this. And when I hear you saying is, I get to do this, like, this is a blessing. This is from God's hand. And to be able to do that's awesome. I'm proud of you. I'm so glad that you're stepping into that and continue to live that. I'm excited to see what happens next. So thanks for sharing with our online community, and God's blessing upon your business, man.
Thank you for having me, Russell.
Take care.